Okay, so knowing that so if you act as though the environment is not under your control, then the dog's not going to believe you. So one of the things that we need to worry about with human beings is acting as if you know that the environment is under your control. You know it's not, but the dog doesn't need to know it's not. The dog can think that it's very much under your control. So if I see somebody coming and I'm walking looky-poo, and there I am, and I see the guy with his 2 golden retrievers who are very friendly, who run about, 50, 100 yards ahead of him. And so he's no way got the dog under control. And he always goes, they're friendly! And I'm like, that's when I really want to say I'm not. That really is. And so I'll just kind of go, hey, Luke, let's go. And we just trot off to the side, and we start going. And we can go fairly rapidly, but not appear to go fairly rapidly, trying to get out of the way. But if I started to run, he would go, there's my mom is panicked, so I can't run. So knowing what to do when danger threatens, having a plan in your mind about what to do if your fearful dog sees something that it's afraid of. You know your fearful dog does not want to hurt anybody, does he? One of the essences of fearful dogs is that they would much rather run away than fight something. But you have to put them in a position where running away is appropriate and is something that they can do. I want to teach my dog that running away is not only an okay thing to do, it's something I'd like them to do. So when I was working with Strider, who was not fearful, but he was leash aggressive, he was my German Shepherd, what I would teach him to do is just, when somebody came, we just turn around and leave. And so he learned that flight was possible. In fact, that I liked flight. And then he ended up doing 10 befriend, which was great. Your physical and mental position must be balanced at all times when you're working with your dog. So who was it that was telling me that their dog, after an incident, 48 hours, the dog is in that case because of the cortisol that's remaining in the system. After 48 hours, the dog started to get a lot better again. So guess what? If you're not balanced, your dog's not going to be balanced. Your dog is not only watching you, your dog is feeling you. Your dog has a tremendous capacity to know what's going on inside in your hormones, what kind of emotions you are feeling. So your physical and mental position must be balanced. So visualization is really important. So you've got a dog that you've got some issues with in home or whatever, and you should be thinking, what will I do if someone knocks on the door? What is the process I'm going to go through? What am I going to do if someone comes towards us right now? Whether it's a verbiage you're going to use, or body language you're going to use, or some kind of motion you're going to take. You need to actually consider the worst case scenario. A dog walker comes right around the corner and you have your fearful dog with you. What are you going to do? Freak out. For some people it might be take your hand and put your hand over the dog's eyes and just move the dog around. That actually works. Not all the time, but it sometimes works, and it might work for your dog if your dog is not one of these dogs that goes, no, I have to see it. And sometimes dogs do and sometimes they don't. Yes, we have a question over here, right here. Wait a second.
Oh, thanks.
See you then. Yeah.
I've had some people tell me this isn't okay, but is it okay to pick them up if they're small enough?
Yeah.
And take them out of the situation?
If you have to make your dog safe by picking the dog up, that's fine.
Yeah, because mine tends to freeze.
What I would do, you got the 7-pound wonder?
Yeah.
Okay. What I would probably do is pick your dog. Does he bark?
Yes, a lot.
Pick him up. Well, you have to tell somebody that you're there.
Yes.
If you're only 7 pounds.
That's right.
So pick him up and hold it, tuck his head. Teach him this.
Okay.
Okay, we just say, pick him up or whatever.
Yeah.
Teach him to be picked up and put his head underneath your arm, right like this.
Okay.
And then walk away with him. Okay, so his head is tucked here instead of right here.
Yeah, he likes to do that. So
yeah, I know he does. Yeah, they all do.
It'll work well.
But remember, they're always going to look at their fearful, whatever they're afraid of, and bark at it.
Yeah.
And now, if he'll bite you when he's under there, don't do it.
No, he won't.
Okay.
When he's calm, he likes to tuck his head in there anyway.
Well, then that's a really good thing for you.
That's good.
With some people, I actually recommend that they wear a kind of a big jackety thing so they can tuck them under
That's a good
here.
idea. Thank you.
Remember, however, with a small dog, I'm going to be doing a whole talk on small dogs here in the not too distant future, but with a small dog, that this behavior of picking the dog up kicks the prey drive in a larger dog. That starts the prey drive going. So if you decide to do that, then you've got to shift and pick them up like that behind you. So this would be something, when talking about rehearsing, this is something you rehearse. Okay, somebody's coming and I got a little dog. Pick him up like this, or turn him around or whatever, so that the dog, you rehearse the behaviors that you're going to do with your own dog. Breathe. Easy, but not. A lot of people stop breathing as soon as there's a problem. Doesn't do you any good at all. Breathe. Move deliberately. Everything that you do is got to be under your own control. Avoid shouting, screaming, or appearing out of control, which we already talked about. Hold the leash in a firm and consistent fashion. This doesn't do anybody any good. And in fact, it does a lot of dogs a lot of bad stuff. So if you find that when you see another person or dog or whatever, you tend to tighten up on your leash, then teach the dog to walk with a tightened leash. If you can't get over that, if your reflexes are such that every time you see something that's going to make your dog afraid, you pull back on the leash, then teach your dog that that's a cool thing. So you'd go for a walk and you'd pull on the leash and then you give them a treat. Go for a walk, pull on the leash, give them a treat. So that they go, oh, pulling on the leash means turn around and get a good thing. If you can, it's better to have a slack leash. But not all of us can do that. I've been told by various people that I have no reflexes, which essentially means that I'm really calm I have 6 brothers. And, so I learned how to be very calm in a crisis. Yes?
Hi. What you said about when you pick up a small dog and that can elicit prey drive in a larger, can you just say a little bit more about that? Because
well, I don't know if there's any more to say. The prey drive kicks in.
Why?
The dog will go after. Lots of little dogs get bitten when somebody's picking them up because the movement sparks the prey drive.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's just that movement that goes. They're going to see that more because it's going to go up like this. Remember, your vision is very different from your dog's vision. I'm going for a walk with my dog, with Boo this morning, and I saw a rabbit. And I saw his ears going boing, 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 and Boo didn't see him at all, for which I'm going, thank goodness. Although he's 11 years old, he'd probably go, okay, whatever. And I was reminded anew about what I see and what Boo sees. What I see is from 5'5". What Boo sees is from 2.5 feet. So if you're picking up a dog, they may not have even seen the dog, or if they did see the dog, it is very different visual when you do this. And it's wiggling. So, it's just something to bear in mind. So control the environment in a firm and consistent fashion, which obviously we've been talking about. Leadership, management, and relationship. Rules are important, not only the rules about eating that we talked about already, but they save time and frustration. If you set rules, then everybody knows what's supposed to happen. They don't have to be hard and fast, nasty rules like wait at the door every time you go through it. So I was talking to somebody about wolf behavior the other day. And I said, I don't really think that wolves make other wolves wait at the door. Really don't. I don't make my dogs wait at the door. I don't think it's important to make your dogs wait at the door. I think it's important to be able to do it if you need to. So teaching your dog wait is really important, but wait at the door, oh, come on. So, but there are rules that are really important. Things that are predictable, things that the dog knows what they're supposed to do. Like, for instance, when we feed our dogs, we do it when they're all relaxed. Because if we do that when they're all hyped, then they're going to get more hyped the next day, and even more hyped the next day. So they have a rule that everybody's kind of lying down before we stand up and go, okay, we're going to feed you guys now. That's not to say they don't get excited once we say that. They're like, oh, wow, this is going to be cool. We're going to eat. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. It's going to last at least 2.5 seconds. It's amazing how happy they get about something that only lasts that long. And then, the relaxation is really important. As I said in the very beginning, Most of these dogs are hindbrain. They are controlled by their own epinephrine, so they have no, or their own adrenaline. So they have no way to actually make judgments. So it's going to take longer to convince them than it would a dog that is thoughtful. A dog that actually takes some time to make a decision will be easier to train. So what does that mean? Well, it really means that dogs that are more stable are easy to train. Duh. You know, dogs that if you say sit, they go, okay, fine, that's fine, I'll do that. So dogs that do not have either rage problems or fear problems are going to be a lot easier to train. So many of my clients, and I'm sure many people you know, will have, say maybe they like a particular breed of dog, maybe they like Aussies. And they go, well, my last Aussie was really easy to train, and this Aussie is horrible. And the whole time you're talking to them, they keep on going, well, my last Aussie was much better. And finally you go, you know, have you been married more than once? Yeah. Is your last wife, how was she, you know? She's the same as this wife? You know, it's hard to convince people that particularly dogs in a particular breed are not going to be the same as each other. But even dogs, that's just dogs. People somehow think that all dogs behave the same. But if you've got a hindbrain dog, if you've got a dog that's more reflexive, that's more reactive to the environment or to whatever it is, it will take longer. And they have to convince them that everything's going to be safe. So they have to be given time to think. And they need to do enough repetitions to form a habit. So how many people do we know that have taken their dog to a puppy class or to a basic training class and who say, well, my dog went to class. He still doesn't come. You know, why doesn't he come even though he's went to class? Well, let me see. If you were going to be a concert pianist, or you were a concert pianist, did you only have to practice when you were 7 years old? Or do you have to continue to practice all the way until you're finishing up being a concert pianist? So when you're forming a habit, it is memory. Habit and memory are the same thing, really. You know, when you're learning how to drive, how long did it take you to learn how to drive? Probably a long time. And you practice driving a lot, I assume. But you formed a habit of, for instance, putting your foot on the brake or turning the turn signal on. Some people don't form that habit, but some people do. So you're not actually having to think about that very often. You just do it, right? So it's the same thing. Habit and memory are the same thing. So if you're trying to teach your dog something, say you're trying to teach your dog find its, then you have to actually teach the exercise. And they have to get muscle memory so that they know what's going on when the word comes out of your mouth. So, so you're going to teach find it, which is what? The easiest thing in the whole wide world to teach because it uses the prey drive and it's fun. So one of the things that I say about fearful dogs is you want to take your dogs from fear to fun because it's two different parts of the brain, so let's do it. So find it's probably one of the most fun things you can do with a dog. So you toss a treat, you say find it. You toss the treat right past the dog's nose. So they see it, not over their head. You're not trying to hide it. I should probably have called it go hunting, but it's now deep in my habit memory to say find it. So it's like saying okay is a release word. I've tried to teach myself to say release. I've tried to teach myself to say go free. And I even had 3 dogs and 3 release words at one point, but in the end it was like, release, okay. We can really see that habit and memory are the same thing, right? So there you are, you're doing a find it, you toss the treat down, they go find it, they come back and look at you because that's what they do. And then you say find it and you toss the treat and they look at it. And then you go and you practice that for 3 or 4 minutes. And then you go away and then you come back again. And then you go away and you come back again. What you're trying to do is you're trying to use muscle memory. And you're trying to use latent learning. So you give them a 2 to 3 minute time period where you're playing the game, then you take 2 or 3 hours between times, and then you play it again. So that they have time to actually put this in their memory, so that when you say find it, their head shoots to the ground. Because that's what you want. You don't even care if there's something on the ground. What you care about is that the dog is going to go, find it, oh boy! What happens when a dog, speaking of find it, what happens when a dog is hunting? Anybody watch their dog hunt for a mouse or anything else. Anybody ever do that? Yeah. Tail. What's happened to the tail? Whee! This is why is that? Because this is fun. Because nature makes it so that anything we have to do is fun. Because otherwise you wouldn't do it. So hunting for food is fun. And from the dog's point of view, that means I could go on about that. But anyway, hunting for sex is fun too, but we took that away. Said, no, you guys are all neutered and spayed. You can't have any of that stuff. So now you're just going to get a hunting, and that's all. So when you're teaching your dog that you're going to be doing this, you're teaching them that they're having fun, and now you're adding muscle memory to it so that it actually occurs when you want it to occur. So you teach it, and you practice it. Then, when you actually do it, they have to retrieve the memory. They have to bring it back. So the more often you practice it, the easier it is to retrieve that memory. The more seldom you do it, the harder it is to retrieve the memory. So for those people who took Family Dog 1 when the dog was 6 months old and they haven't been practicing down, they tell their dog down and the dog's going, I know that means something. I think it does. And then they kind of look at you like, what? And then they'll actually do it as they have retrieved the memory. We know this, right? How often have you actually thought, there's something, I remember that, I remember it, just wait a second, it'll come to me. It's on the tip of my tongue, it'll come to me, it'll come. Dogs are the same thing, and you can see them. Yeah, it's coming, I don't know what it is, and then they go, and then they lie down, and they go, is that it? And you go, yeah, that was it, that was really good. In fact, and then they go, I think I'll roll over just in case that wasn't it. Or they go through the whole repertoire of sit down, lie over, whatever they're going to go through. They go through all of them. So retrieving the memory can be can be something that takes a while unless you work on it hard enough. So if, for instance, you've decided that you're going to work on Find It as part of your working with your fearful dog, which I would recommend that you do, that means that you should be practicing it at different places, different times, and every 2 to 3 hours. Don't wake up in the middle of the night and do it. You don't have to do that. But just every 2 to 3 hours. Just allowing time for latent learning to take place. It's really important. Markers are important. Saying yes is important. If that's the marker word you use, or good, or whatever the word you use. You need to say something to the dog to say you just did it right. So if you use a clicker, that's cool. A lot of owners can't use clickers because they can't hold the leash, the treats, and the... it's hard and a clicker all at the same time. So we need a mouth clicker. That'll stop them from talking too much anyway. Oh, that's my next invention. There we go. Yeah, just a little mouth clicker. Because you can go, but it takes too long, to get your mouth into that thing. So, but anyway, that will help to bring the memory to the surface. If you use a marker, whether it's yes or whatever it might be, that brings the memory to the surface. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring things into the conscious brain. Do you see what I'm getting at? Okay, and then we're trying to bring things to the conscious brain and then make it fun. Those are the two things that we could have just had a 5-minute seminar. So anyway, classical conditioning, desensitization, and counter conditioning. Those are things that are really important for fearful dogs. Really, really important. It's hard to do classical conditioning when you have a life, because it has to be done consistently. And it has to be done at under threshold, and then you increase threshold as you go. So desensitization essentially is working the dog where he is in his comfort zone, but you are exposing him to the thing that he is afraid of. So desensitization is only that. So if I have a fearful dog and it's afraid of men, then I'm going to have the man start to come in, and he's going to be okay with it for a while, and then when he gets totally relaxed, the man can come in a little further. It gets totally relaxed, the man can come in a little further. It's like about as interesting as watching grass grow. But it's very important. Now, what we do is we add counter conditioning to that, so it makes it speed up a little bit. And that means that when the man is introduced, you give the dog a cookie. And then when he begins relaxed, you bring the guy in further and you give the dog some more cookies. And in fact, sometimes you're giving them a lot of cookies at that time, however your dog might need it. And sometimes what I do is a lot of times I'll put treats on the ground right in front of the dog so that the dog doesn't keep staring at the thing. They look up and then they look down, then they look up, and they look down, because I believe that an elongated stare can make the problem much worse. So I want to take the stare away. And a lot of trainers teach watch. So you're going to watch me. But with a lot of my owners, I don't want the dog to watch the owner, because the owner is going. And if the owner is really worried and scared, then why would you want your dog to look at them? So just looking at something else will be fine. They can easily do that. So working the dog below threshold. So I have people working the dogs in their cars, right around dog parks, or right around schools, depending on what they're afraid of. Any place where you can work your dog under threshold. For those things, if you can do it once a day, you're cool. You're fine. So we go both ways. I do operant conditioning and classical conditioning. So the classical conditioning is to teach the dog that it's okay. You're trying to change their emotional content. It's okay. That person is all right. Those dogs are okay. The operant conditioning, which is training find it in this case, is to teach the dog, I'm going to give you another behavior to do so that you don't have to worry about that other stuff. So I usually go both when I'm teaching fearful dogs particularly. With not fearful dogs, obedience. In the end, that's what you need with dogs that are not fearful. You need a dog that you say jump and they say how high. So, but with fearful dogs that have, and almost all dogs have that soupçon of fear in there, just a little bit of fear. Going beyond the threshold does a lot more damage than consistently working below. And people get very impatient. And they go, well, he's doing really well here, so now I'm going to take him to the preschool and I'm going to have the kids pet him. Not a really good idea, because now the dog is going over threshold and you'll actually put him back behind where he was before, even worse than he was before. If you have heard of BAT training, Grisha Stewart's, her desensitization and counter conditioning protocols, they're very good for keeping the dog under threshold. It's a very nice protocol. What I find is that owners want to wait until issues develop before they make any move at all. So your dog is already barking, and now you've decided to take action. That's way too late for all dogs and all problems. You cannot teach a dog that's hysterical. You can't teach them anything. They're not in a learning situation. If the fire alarm goes off and you're trying to teach the kids their ABCs, right. You think they're going to learn that? They're not going to learn it. Their brain isn't going to let them learn it. So so the most commonly asked question I get is, well, what do I do when my dog is already acting out? And I usually say, well, get out of there. You just blew it, honey. It may not be your fault, but just get out. Just leave, because it's not a good training opportunity. The other thing besides find it that we've done, and I do this with particularly little dogs, I've got a Jack Russell Terrier I'm working with right now that is a piece of work. But anyway, I'll take any advice. He's a hard boy. Anyway, what we're doing with him now is we're teaching him tricks, because he's too smart for find its. He goes, I'll do a find it, come back and bite you. Because he's a Jack. And they know, they've got it. So now he's going to be doing like 3 or 4 tricks in a row before he gets his reward, so he actually has to do a lot of work for it. But tricks are great because they do the same thing that the find it does. They make the dog happy. And making the dog happy is good. At one point I had a Cairn Terrier who I'd gotten when she was 4 years old, and she bit the kids in the house, chased people down the block and bit them, and she's possessive aggressive, and so she bit people who tried to take things away from her. And boy did she, and I loved her. She was just wonderful. But everybody else was scared of her. You weren't scared of her. She was a cute little thing. But she did tricks. What I taught her was when we were walking along a trail and she saw somebody, that she would come back and do a trick around my leg. So she'd be right up there, she'd see somebody, I'd say, Sophie, and then she'd come back and she'd do spin, she'd jump over my leg, she'd go under my leg. We'd keep moving. And she was doing all these tricks. And after a while, she'd see somebody and come running right back to me, going, okay, and then the people would laugh. And then Sophie loved it. And so she ended up liking people. So it actually overrode all of her other emotions, and she began to really like people, which is very cool. Enjoyable activities to tire a dog out. Scenting work is a lovely thing to do with fearful dogs. It actually is find it working, you know. And retrieving. This is my dog Strider retrieving a deer leg that he found on the hill. And I called him and he brought it back to me. It was very nice. And I looked at it and I said, oh, that's a nice fresh deer leg. Huh. Yeah. But he dropped it eventually. Does consoling fear work? Well, no. Oh, and by the way, where are you with the dog? Yes, we're going to be using your dog. Okay? So I've actually got a mini consult in a few minutes, okay? Does consoling fear work? Well, if you listen to a lot of dog trainers, they tell you it leads to poor behavior. It actually, makes things worse. And in my opinion, it doesn't really make things worse. It doesn't make them any better either, but it doesn't make anything worse. How many of you guys have children? How many of you guys were children at one point? So what happens with a small child is if a small child falls down and hurts skins its leg or something like that, what do? You pick them up, brush them off, and say, okay, go play. That's all you do. You don't go, oh, my poor baby, and pick them up and yes, you do, huh? Depends on who it is. Grandmothers do that. Yeah, grandmothers do that. They do that. So then but you don't buy into the fear. I mean, you make sure that everything's okay, and then you say, we're going to do something else. And that's what you do with the dog. You make sure the dog is okay. You say, all right, we're all right. You didn't get hurt, whatever. And what we're now going to do something else. We're going to play some games or whatever. So I think that's more important than saying that consoling fear makes things worse. I don't think it does. What it could do is it could make the dog go, oh, if somebody's coming and I run over to mom and I act scared, I get more attention. But that would assume they want more attention. And most of these dogs already get a lot. Let's face it, most of our dogs get a lot of attention. It's like so many people want their dogs to work for praise. How many people do you know that want to have their dogs work for love, for praise? Yeah, we all know that, right? And of course we give them, we just go, oh, you're so cute. We give it to them for free. Why on earth should they do that? Touching your dog may well help. Oh, by the way, one other thing, I was going to mention that while I was walking my dog Luke several months ago, 2 dogs ran out. One dog, a Labrador, ran out of a garage. I was walking Luke and Aspen, our little dog, and he ran right for our dogs. I grabbed Aspen, put her under, because she's 12 pounds, and let Luke go, so that he had to take care of himself, unfortunately. The dog rolled him. I called him. I kept going. I called him. He came, and another dog came out of the same garage. Came up to him, rolled him again. And he got up, and he came to me, bless his little heart. And we ran, skipped, jumped, played, did tricks all the way home. I was so tired. But boy, did we do tricks. I went, oh, we're going to override that. We're going to override. That was a horrible, horrible thing to have happen to you. And then we avoided that garage area for about 4 months, and now we're back. And it's okay. But, that's the fear to fun thing that I was talking about. And I was exhausted, as I say. Wait a second. The thing is coming. There you go.
So you said you actually let Luke go. Was that because you couldn't handle both of them at once, or sometimes dogs, they can sort out problems on their own?
Well, it's both. I figure I was going to even the playing field. I didn't want to have Luke at a disadvantage of being on a leash. Mm-hmm. Also, if he was on a leash and the other dog was here, the other dog would see Aspen, who was going yap, 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 like little dogs often do. And so I didn't want to draw their attention to the little dog. And I really wanted Luke to be able to make the decision to come to me. So if your dog is attacked by another dog and you're not worried about them getting hit by a car, let them go.
Out naturally.
Yeah, well, it won't play out naturally. You have to call your dog. Mm-hmm. You have to go. I mean, I was walking. I never stopped. I was walking. I'm like, come on, Luke, you're late. And he's going, blah, and I'm, you're late. I didn't play into it at all. So, and it worked. Now, that doesn't mean it would work next time, but it worked that time. Okay, so All right. When you teach your dog how to love to learn, they will continue to learn. If you make learning fun for your dog, they will get out of their fear. They will start to enjoy themselves. Make them love to learn. If learning is hard to do, if learning is a chore, then they won't want to do it. If you'd rather have a cup of coffee than teach your dog, if you'd rather do something else than teach your dog, then you're not making it fun, and they probably won't enjoy it either. Dogs are always learning, whether we are teaching them or not. So what was Luke learning at that point? That I wasn't going to back him up, that he had to come to me, he had to get away from those other things, and that life is good once he got to me. So maybe that's what he was learning. He could have been learning don't trust labs. I don't know. But in this case, I don't think he did. And finally, there is no such thing as a 100% reliable dog. There's no such thing. I know a lot of people who say, I've got 100% recall. No, you don't. Nobody has 100% recall. When we're perfect, they can be perfect. But as far as I know, there's none of us who's perfect, and there is no dog that's perfect. Or put it this way, they're perfect, all perfect in their own way. All of them. Okay, so that's all I have on this, but I would like to do a consult. This is going to be a pretty short one, obviously. And this is, why don't you go ahead and bring him up. This is Todd, right? And this is a dog that's kind of a feral dog. So we need a couple chairs. So why don't you tell us about your dog? What's your dog's name?
This is Marty. Marty is from the Caribbean. And the story we're told is that she's the remnants of the British sailors. So the dogs there run free. And they hand off the dogs essentially to tourists who are visiting as puppies. And we first were just going to be a carrier to bring the dog back to an adopter, but then we fell in love, and now here we are.
Oh, another failed foster.
5 years later and going. So immediately Marty, we knew, was fearful. As a 10-week-old puppy, she would growl, just not one of those happy, want to greet everything in the world dogs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how old is she now?
She's 5.
She's 5 years old. And what's her behavior like now?
If I were to categorize it, I would say it's the conflicted dog. Mm-hmm. There's 7 people that in the world that she loves. Everyone else she is very tentative and scared of.
Okay. Has she ever threatened to, or have you ever felt that she might bite?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me the last time that might have happened?
She's good on walks, but I'm always watching her. She has bitten me for resource. She had stuffing from a toy, mm-hmm. and tried to get it from her, and she bit me.
How long ago was that?
Maybe 9 months ago.
Okay. And any strangers? Has she ever bitten a stranger?
No.
Okay.
But I tell people, don't pet her. She will bite you.
Okay, that's pretty clear. All right. So what are her stress signals? What are her signals that she's very fearful?
When people come up to her and want to pet her, she gets very tense. She'll freeze. It's too bad people couldn't see her in the back, because she came in. At first she was very, very nervous, was hiding under me. Mm-hmm. She finally calmed down. And then the woman in the white skirt there got up and started making some noise, and she immediately then hid underneath me. Okay, so she has sudden environmental change stuff.
Yeah.
So
she became comfortable where she was, and she probably liked it that you were in the back.
Yes.
Because she did not have anybody looking at her.
Right.
So right now, there's a lot of people looking at her. You know the old joke about dog trainers, right? If you have a party with 50 dog trainers and one dog, nobody in the party can tell you what any of the other people look like. But they can tell you what the dog was doing the whole time. All right, so she's very fearful. And you said she's a resource guarder. Has she done that a lot? Is that...
No, I think it was just a very high value item. It was her favorite toy. She got the stuffing out of it. She just didn't want to give it up. Uh-huh. But that's something we work with. Since that happened, I've been rewarding her for giving up things that she's working on. Mm-hmm. So that's something I've been working on as well.
Okay. Can you pass me her leash?
Sure.
What are your goals for this dog?
I don't think she'll ever be a Labrador.
Okay. No, she'll never be a Labrador. She doesn't look right for a Labrador.
It's as good as possible.
So you would like her to, I mean, you saw her, she
Yes.
snarled at me.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Is that very common?
yes.
Okay. So, and she has 7 people she likes.
Yes.
Are you planning on staying friends with them for the rest of her life?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But with new people, it's I only trust her with people that know what they're doing. So it's very difficult to decondition because I don't trust anyone to read her the way I can read her.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So what kind of behaviors have you trained in her?
She knows a ton of tricks. When we go on walks, if I see a dog coming, we'll step aside and let the dog pass, and she gets treats as long as she's in a good frame of mind. I've learned, I don't know if this is correct, but someone else taught me to not correct fear-based behavior.
You can't. Yeah.
Right. I've not taught her the find it. I'm interested in what context do you use that? If you can anticipate a fearful event, do you then tell them to go find it? When is that a useful behavior?
Well, actually, it's a useful behavior a lot. I mean, when she came towards me, when I looked at her, that's when she snarled, right? And then I looked away and she snarled again. And then I looked at her again and she snarled again. So I think there were about 3 times. Does that sound right? So what you would do is you want to teach the dog that they don't have to look at the thing they're afraid of. So you can use it as a default behavior in that you can say, this is a way to do avoidance. So, if you're thinking about the anxiety, avoidance, escape, we want her to do avoidance or escape before she does aggression. So it goes anxiety, avoidance, escape, aggression, shut down. So we would like her to do avoidance first, escape if she needs to, before, and not go to aggression at all. So I would probably add it as one of your default behaviors, depending on how much she can think. So
She can't think when she's angry. She goes red.
yeah. How often does that happen?
Every time the UPS truck goes by, she knows the sound of
The
a
UPS,
diesel engine.
yeah.
And she knows that potentially could mean a package is showing up the door. So every time, so that's very difficult to deal with. If I hear it first, I can get her to sit, stay, she's fine.
So where is she when the UPS person comes?
So somewhere in the house. But if I can't correct it, she'll be at the front door, snarling at the front door. Because now she thought, oh, great. Well, at least I think this is what she's doing. Great, I just chased that guy.
Oh yeah. She's going, look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
I am so cool.
I did a good job.
Yeah.
I just chased that guy away.
I did. You have to remember that she thinks of everything as being a potential threat,
Definitely.
as opposed to being a potential friend.
Right.
So that's her point. Let me see. Do you have any treats on you?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, well, just stand up, and why don't you do here? I'll take that. Okay. Why don't you just toss a treat down and make it go so that she can really see it. So she's got a lot of the fear thing of, I'm going to go really slowly. So, okay, do it again. Okay, so when you do it, whoops. I know, I'm just really, and I'm sorry. I just have my own treats here, yeah. So when you do it, oh, that's not good enough. I'm really sorry about that. I thought that I had some more bacon in there, but apparently I don't. So when you do it, you say like find it, and then now move a little. Just move a little to get her attention back to you. So it kind of is like find it, and then you move just a tad to get her going there, and then back again, and then there, and then back. Oh, the Charlie bear she says, that's only 1 calorie. I don't like it. I don't want this. Here. He always has great treats, Mark does. Yeah, well, these are different too, so. Okay. These are stinky treats.
That's
Whoops.
the conflicted dog there.
Okay. We can try some treat retreat with this dog too. Let me see I'll see if we do that. We just do some find its first. But then when you do a find it, good girl. You toss the treat away, and then they turn around and they look back at you, and then you toss the treat away again. Okay? So the whole idea is to keep them either looking for a treat or looking for you. So in the case of an owner, right? Ready? Find it. Good girl. Find it. Sorry about that, honey. My aim is just really bad. Find it. It rolls. Find it. Good girl. Yeah, in this case, I'm actually trying to develop an instant relationship with her too. Yeah, this is actually 2 things at once. This is find it, and this is treat retreat. So I'll talk about treat retreat in a second. And I was going to mention it anyway, so this is good. Find it. Yeah, we can actually talk about when you would use that. Okay. So when you're teaching find it, that's what you do. It's you do it, then you come back and then do it. So they're always either looking for the treat or they're looking back at you. So now you're going to actually be walking by somebody, and you would do it over. If they're walking by somebody like here, then you're doing a treat right here. So somebody's like this, and so you actually identify. She does identify the treat with the person walking by, but she doesn't have to look at that person.
I see.
And that's really going to be important to her.
Okay.
So let's also try some, and then so I would do it. I'd alternate that with tricks.
Okay.
And if she's nervous, then you do this. And I would not wait until she shows that she's nervous.
Right.
Okay, do it before she waits. So I just want to see how we do with some treat retreat stuff. So if we can just hold her leash really slack, that's good. Okay. Treat retreat is essentially to teach the dog that it's kind of find it's when you're stationary. It is to teach the dog that the stranger is not a horrible person. And, oh, good dog, very good. I don't want her to take it from my hand. I don't want to put her in a position where she has to decide whether my hand is dangerous. And I'm not looking at her. No. No, this is just, I can do I can say find it if you want to. But what is it that fearful dogs hate the most? Attention. They don't want attention. So I'm not giving her any attention. She's getting treats rained on her. And she knows exactly where they're coming from. They're coming from me, so she's coming back to me for it. Good girl. But if I got up and moved really fast, she's not going to like that. Uh-oh, I'm going to do it.
Or if you tried to pet.
Oh, if I tried to pet her? Are you kidding? Pardon? I don't want her to yet. Okay, so that's a really good question. Which was? The question was, if I put a treat on my knee. When I'm working with fearful dogs, I'm going to work slower than I want to, and slower than my owner wants me to, because I would like to really feel firm about, sure that she's going to accept me before we actually get to that spot. So what I would want her to be doing is nudging and nuzzling me first. Not just approaching for the treat, but coming over and going, where is it? Can I have this? and then I would probably do it. I do think that we human beings tend to hurry things along a little bit too much, but if, you know, what difference would it make? What difference would it make if it's at 1 day or 2 days hence, really, when you get right down to it? If you can actually get some. See, she's still coming at me very hesitantly, isn't she? She's like, well, but this is way better. So I am kind of showing it to her and then tossing it and showing it to her. She's a cute, cute dog. I can see why you took her. Okay, so now I'm going to hold it out. I'm going to hurry her a little bit. Good girl. That's good. I'm still not looking at her. Okay, so can I get Pam? Why don't you come up here and do a little bit of this? Okay, so yeah, that's good.
Push from the side too.
Yeah, she's doing it from the side. You do side, and then you do no eye contact, and you're doing good stuff, okay? Now, if she was a really reactive dog in the home, and Pam wanted to get up and go get a cup of coffee or something, she would toss a treat right before she got up, okay, so that the dog is actually starting to go the other direction right before she gets up. Yeah. So Pam, you want to try that? Just toss the treat and then stand up. And stand up. Good. And now toss the treat and then walk away. Very good. Okay. So this dog is, do you think this dog would bite? Yeah, I think this dog would bite. I think she would definitely, she's pretty sure about her own power. Now she's doing this. But she likes, this is natural balance, and she likes this a lot.
She likes cheese too.
She likes cheese a lot? That's good. Good girl. Do I trust her yet? No, I don't trust her yet. Yes? What?
I'm okay.
Yeah, because I asked.
How do I look? Do I look nervous? or-
I asked because I do work with animals on a professional basis as an RBT. We deal with so many fearful dogs.
I bet. Yeah.
And fearful owners on top of fearful dogs.
Sure.
So oftentimes, my focus as an RBT is right on the animal,
Uh-huh.
only to watch for both safety. All the while, I'm curious how owners are feeling, don't have the luxury of time to ask them. So at this time, how are you feeling? Because the dog is feeling you. So for as much as you're relaxed or unrelaxed.
I think I'm fine. I mean, when she said, now get someone else, I got a little
Yeah,
nervous because
right.
I'm like, ooh, you know, what are these people going to do?
I got somebody else I knew very well, and I thought she wouldn't probably sue me. So, you know.
Right. So I trust the other person here because she
Right.
clearly knows what she's doing. And when I saw Pam come up and approach from the side, I knew she knew what she was doing.
Right, right. So,
But when I hear, just have strangers give food to the dog, I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that, I would never do that.
right.
No, you would do this on anybody you want to include in your family.
Yeah.
If you wanted to extend your family from 7 people to more, then you would this would be and this would be the treat that she only gets for treat retreat, or only gets so that this becomes a wow, come on in, sit down, let's play, and you know that would be a really good thing for her, and then you could extend that to the find it's when you're going for a walk. Let me just take out something else here. Good girl, go ahead and sit down. Here, you can have some treats. I beg your pardon?
I'm instructing your audience.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yes?
So what I was noticing is that you're really working, when you're letting her come and take them from your hand, you've got your hand a little bit closed so that she's having to sort of nudge your fingers.
She was having to work pretty
and
hard.
everything, and you're also stroking her chin a little bit underneath there.
Yeah, I was actually creating a little instant relationship, or not instant, but a relationship, so that she was getting used to the feel of my hand on her. But again, I'm not going to go further down her jaw until she's ready for that. You know, one of the things that really, really helped me in working with fearful dogs, poor Boo's sitting over there going, where's mine? Poor baby. Is I went to Wolf Park with my daughter, and it was really interesting because the wolves in Wolf Park in Indiana are not, they're tamed, but they're not domestic, and they're not very tame. They actually take them away from their moms when they're little, but then they put them back into the pack, and they're not socialized with people in that they don't ever live in a home or anything like that. And when we went into the enclosure where there's a pack of wolves that you visit with, anybody been to Wolf Park? It's really cool. When you go in to visit, you have what's called the 3-second rule. And the 3-second rule is that you do not touch the wolves for more than 3 seconds at a time. It's 1, 2, 3, stop. You do not touch the wolf on the top of its head or back. And you do not put your arm around the wolf this way. You do not, in other words, you're right here. This is where you are. You're touching the wolf right here. They like it right there. They're certainly better than this as far as that's concerned. But the 3-second rule is a really cool rule with fearful dogs. And it's something that, in her case, I wasn't even going 3 seconds. I just, just a little bit. And she's doing this nuzzly thing, which is great. Oh, she's a good girl. And so now I've actually started to pet her. But I'm only petting her for like 2 seconds, and then I'm stopping. I want her to want more. She needs to want more. Otherwise, it's not going to work. She needs to think that I am the coolest thing on earth. And mind you, I'm the coolest thing on earth only right now because I am very predictable. I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys, talking to Todd. When I move, I'm moving slowly. I am not looking at her. I am not presenting my full face to her. I'm not, I'm leaning over her. I'm really, really predictable. So when you're working with other people's fearful dog, that's very important. And when other people are working with your fearful dog, that's very important. So I never have strangers give my dogs treats unless, if I've got a fearful dog that I'm working with, unless it's like this. Unless it's with the person knows exactly what they're doing, and I'm in an environment that I'm fully under control with, and the person who's doing it is not going, right? Because if the person is scared, the dog's going to go, oh, I can get you, because that builds the dog's confidence when you don't want the confidence built. Yes?
Question. Any suggestions taking a fearful dog to the vet?
Yes, a calming cap. I was actually looking for that in my in there, but apparently I took it out. A calming cap. Yeah, you have one? Oh, well, that's great. A calming cap is something that I invented, and I'm not just selling it because I invented it. Vets really do like it. It actually is like a hood that you use for a hawk. The dog can see light and dark, but they cannot see. It's not they can't see specifics. And when you take away the visual, remember I said you don't look at the dog? Because looking at the dog is extremely disconcerting to the dog and very challenging and threatening to the dog. So when you put a calming cap on the dog, there is no looking. And then you actually get the dog used to it, you get the dog habituated to it before you ever go into the vet. You put it on for like 5 minutes at a time, you give them cookies, you give them a bone, you give them whatever. They don't usually mind it very much because they know their teeth are still available. They could still bite if they wanted to. If you use a calming cap and a muzzle, which is what happens when you use a cat, there are cat muzzles that actually go over the cat's eyes. And you can do that if you want with a dog too. But anyway, the calming cap is a really, if you have a fearful dog, I would highly recommend that you get a calming cap. Anybody else use it besides Mark? You use one?
Yeah, especially in the vet. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's also great for reactive dogs in the car.
That's what I invented it for. I didn't invent it for the veterinarian use, but it's more effective for veterinarian use than it is for the reactivity. I thought one dropped down, or did you catch it? So I'm going to try staring at her in a second. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, she's got the old one. The new ones are gray. They're not little doggies all over the place. But they're but see, they can see through this here, but not very well. And this goes around their collar. There's no muzzle restraint. And then their muzzle comes right through here. So if it's a dangerous dog, then you would want to put a muzzle on too, after you put this on.
Yeah, so towels, unfortunately and fortunately, are helpful, but used sparingly. And
Well, the thing about a towel is that you're putting it on them.
Yeah.
The thing about these things is that the owner puts it on them.
Oh, yeah.
Say if you can have the owner put it on them, if you actually have something in like a stuffed dog or something, and show what it is and show them how to do it, you're probably going to be much better off.
Yeah.
So it's much better if the owner can do almost everything. Because if you're having to deal with a dog and you're trying to give them shots, this is great also for doing nails and things. But it's really good for fearful dogs. Really, really good. Oh, wow, I get cheese here. You like cheese too, sweetie? Yeah? Good. Now I'm going to try to look at her. Oh, I don't like the cheese now. Give me the other stuff. Where's the other stuff? You like the cheese? Not much.
More at ease.
I think
Good,
it's fine
she's-
now, but it can change in less
Very
than a
quickly,
second.
yes. So she's looking at me. Not looking straight in my eyes, but looking at me enough to kind of go. So we've gone pretty far in not very long, and for treats. You know, I like it when I've got a person who doesn't want to use treats. I usually say, well, it's like if you were sitting here and I was giving you $100 bills. You know, would you not get a lot more friendly? Especially if every time you looked at me I gave you a $100 bill? That would be cool, right? I would like that. You're a very good girl. You are a very good girl. So I would probably be using something like this. But other than that, your tricks and stuff that you're doing are really good. I would just probably add some fine bits, add a little bit more. And, you know, you're already where you ought to be, which is you expect your dog, you do not expect your dog to be perfect. So you're already where we want most owners to be, is you know, this is who you have. She is a semi-feral sweetheart of a dog who loves you and likes these other 6 people or 7 people. And, you know, and other than that, she's going to learn how to be civilized.
Yeah, definitely. I've also, one other owner reaction is embarrassment.
Yeah.
You know, me, I've gotten over that too.
You've gotten over the embarrassment part?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can, I mean, maybe come up with a great story. Maybe you can say, you know, she's part coyote. I don't know. Just you come up with a story, and if you can come up with a story and you can use it, it's part of habituation is to come up with this story that you can say every time. You know, you can say, you know, she looks really cute, but don't trust her. But see, anything that's a long phrase, you have a hard time with.
I would try, oh, she's not very friendly.
Yeah.
And oh, but, you know, so I just say she's going to bite you.
Yeah.
People, okay, I'll get better then.
Yeah. Then you have to be careful because then they run away, and then she's going, oh, I could bite them.
Right.
So it's almost better to say she's very ill. Ear mites? They don't know what that is. But just ill. She's sick. I'm sorry, she's sick. I think that would probably do. Yeah. Yes?
I just wanted to say as sort of a warning that when you're doing this with people, even when you're training the people, and the very next thing they want to do after that, you can get them to look sideways and everything, and then the dog starts to relax, the very next thing they want to do is
Just
this.
pet them on top of their head.
Yeah, the very, so just, you know, like...
So, yeah. So what you might want to do is print out the 3-second rule.
Right. It's
And
kind of
hand it to each person.
It's kind of difficult because you tell people,
you basically warn people, be scared of her, then they're scared of her, which is what you don't want people to be. You know, it's very, I would only do this with people that I would want to introduce in my home for a long period of time. You know, if they're staying for weeks or whatever.
Your family.
Exactly.
It's your extended family. That's who you do this stuff with.
Right.
And they'll be okay with it. But when I came, if I were staying at your house and I came down in the morning and we'd only had this much of an introduction the night before, she's going to be not good with me.
Yep.
Until we have this for several days in a row. And then she'll finally go, oh, she's one of the good guys. And that's what you're trying to get her to get is, so she is who she is. I think I'll leave you with, respect your dog for who she is. If your dog is fearful, respect that. If your dog, whoever she is, accept them and then work with them, but don't expect them to be any kind of miraculous recovery or anything like that with your dog. They're all individuals. That's what makes them so wonderful. It also can make them problematic. So you guys, thank you all so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it.